back, everyone, to another Wapplewood episode. It's the first episode of June, so congratulations, everyone. It's now the month of the Sacred Heart. PapaLlama, any thoughts on that?
Well, it's June now. I think this will air in the middle. Actually, did the other episode air before June? So this will
The
be the
other
first one.
episode aired, before June, so it
Okay.
aired the very last day of May. This one will be coming
The
out on
Sacred
the
Heart's
14th.
always a really great month, so it's fun. I enjoy what happens on the server during that time.
Yeah. I've got to be honest, I quite like the icon, the Sacred Heart. I'm quite pleased with Jeremy's choices on what to do during the month. Unfortunately, before this podcast comes out, Father Baggins would have done the mass he's offering up, so I'm not sure if there's any other special events that
It,
are happening, but... Oh, wait,
it
no,
is
the
pretty
episode
cool. I've
came out
never done
on the
a
first day. The
as
first
a
day.
server mass. That's interesting.
Yeah, server mass.
Yeah. I've always wondered what that would be like if that was like one of the daily TV mass. I've seen that on YouTube. Wonder if it's similar.
My priest actually gave a homily about how he doesn't like the online masses because they get people to go, well, I'm just going to watch the mass and I'll fulfill my requirement. And with that, it's great that the parish offers it for like those who cannot get to mass. But also the number of people who do it instead of going to mass when they can go to mass is to the point that he's almost considering shutting it down. Which is not something I'd ever actually had to think about before.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that you're not going to convince the people who do things in bad faith to not do things in bad faith. Like, maybe there's a possibility to motivate some people, but I don't know. I wouldn't function around those people. But I'm also not a priest, so who knows?
Anyway, all of that past us now. We have a very special guest today. This is one of CDD's now a Camden, allegedly a mobster. It's Maddie.
Hi. Of course you have to bring up the mob thing.
I mean, okay. What am I supposed to do about it?
She totally doesn't operate two accounts.
No, Maddie only operates one account.
That's right.
You know, I do have sisters.
Yeah, and a brother too, don't you?
More than
You got
one.
a few brothers.
Yeah.
She's got a lot of siblings.
Yes,
many.
I do.
I would say too
There's-
many siblings.
No.
Wait, hold up, wait. How many siblings? Please tell me with an even number so that pun at least somewhat works.
I have 9 siblings.
No. Man, that's my pun. Oh, man. 9 siblings.
Her parents are really living up the Catholic values in this regard, which is awesome.
Yes.
I only know that I have proof that Maddie is not operating two separate accounts because her sister, one time, I think it was on a different server, her sister, the ones that totally don't exist, her sister was, her and her sister were using Maddie's account and they were peeling potatoes together or something. And I was like, and
We
so
were
like
making
two voices.
pierogies.
There we go. Yeah. And so there was two different voices coming through there. So she either can talk over herself and throw her voice in a different pitch, or there is actually a sister involved.
I mean, there is the possibility that Maddie's just a very skilled ventriloquist.
It is true. Could happen.
You'll never know.
Anyway, potatoes. When I talked to you about putting this episode together, you mentioned that you enjoy cooking. I think that's
Yes,
one
I
of the
do.
commonalities. I enjoy cooking. PapaLlama enjoys barbecue, and Maddie enjoys cooking.
I actually cook a lot in the kitchen, so it's not beyond me.
Not beyond you. What about baking? How are you guys with baking?
Okay, now I can't do it. I'm not good at baking.
I bake every once in a while. Mostly it's bread. Or bagels.
Bread.
Depending.
Oh, bagels. That's actually impressive. Bagels, I've heard, are very hard to do to get.
It's not actually that hard.
Right. Not that hard. Interesting. I've heard
It's
about
just
some people.
you need to boil it first in water with honey, and that gives you that crust.
I've heard about people using lye, boiling it in lye water.
I have not heard about that.
Yeah, it's supposed to sell you. They're supposed to do it to get, I think, the Montreal style crust. I can't remember which, but one of the ways that good people are very up in arms about bagels. One of the ways to do it to get the quote unquote perfect crust is lye. And I'm thinking, wow, that's very basic, and I don't want that sort of stuff near my kitchen utensils.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be lying if I said that sounded simple at all.
You're just obviously not motivated
What?
enough to have the perfect bagel crust.
Zero for 2 on German puns now.
Actually, I am rather picky about my bagels because growing up in New Jersey, we had very good bagels. Boiling it with the honey actually comes pretty close.
How do you cut your bagels?
Well, am I sharing it?
For personal enjoyment.
You cut it in half to create the most surface area.
Half horizontally, right? PapaLlama,
Yes.
what about you?
On the rare occasion I eat a bagel, that's how I do it. You just cut it so you have 2 circles.
Alright. Now this is something I've actually picked up with bagels. It's unusual. People don't like when I do it. A friend of mine once described it as anti-Semitic. Cut them into slices like bread. Up, down, up, down. They call it the
Interesting.
St. Louis style.
And then how do you put like the cream or the butter on it?
Well, you'd have individual little pieces that you could just take and dip in, like if you're eating a naan, you tear it and you dip it in the sauce.
Yeah, this is weird for sure.
It's
Yeah,
weird.
I've never heard of it done that way.
Yeah, it's weird, but I enjoy it, and it gets me a good, healthy amount of cream cheese, good surface area, and it's like.
I was
easier
expecting you
do
to
if you're
say
doing
that you
something
like
else.
that you use the cream cheese as a dipping sauce or something with a situation like that.
That'd be. Then you get crumbs in the cream cheese in a nasty way.
I mean, you are cutting a bagel into slices. I'm not sure that anything is gonna be beyond.
Wow.
Not anything is off
That
the
is
table.
true.
Not anything's off the table.
That
Wow.
is true.
I can't believe
Like,
this.
is it really that unbelievable that you might not care about such things when you cut the bagel into chunks?
I mean, it works really well. It's a great way, I find. It's just that people really don't like it, so I can't do it in public.
That's so funny. Just eat bread at that point. You can just make a bread, not
Yeah.
a bagel. You can make a bagel tasting bread.
I mean, yeah, but bagels are different than bread, and they taste different.
Sure,
Like, I'm
sure,
not
but
gonna.
you don't have to make them in a circle with a hole in the middle. You could just make like a loaf of bagel.
That is true.
I don't think it would cook evenly, though.
Actually, it would.
It would. Oh.
Mm-hmm. You just change the baking time.
This man just needs a loaf of bagel. It could be the new thing. Jerma could spearhead loaves of bagels in all the international grocery stores.
I worry people would respond to that very poorly. And also, if I do that, how am I supposed to make a bagel necklace? That's what the hole's for.
Oh no,
isn't it?
dude, this is 2024. You just sell this as some like boutique style thing, and you call it like a bagel bread or bagel bread would work great.
Yeah.
People would eat that up.
I know enough people in the food industry to know that getting into the food industry is not a recipe for success.
Oh, it is not.
You
If
have
I
to compete
could,
with the Procter and Gambles of the world.
for a call, actually, Maddie, don't you work somewhat with the food industry?
Yes, I do. I work for a catering company.
What's that like?
It's hectic at times, but actually quite fun. Because I get to go to all sorts of venues, see all kinds of food and parties, and know exactly what I won't do for my own parties one day.
Oh yeah. What side
That's
of
something
the actual like catering world are you in? Are you in the administrative and management, the serving, the cooking? Where are you at in there?
Just the serving.
All right.
Just serving.
Mhm.
I did a small stint like that in high school. Made some extra cash, like doing serving for a catering company at these different events.
It's one of the things where caterers are really important. There's nothing quite like that makes a meeting nice when you're getting there and then the caterers arrive and they've brought the most beautiful looking tray of either like sandwiches for a lunch meeting or just cookies and coffee for a afternoon meeting, and it just without that I wonder how much stuff wouldn't happen.
Yeah, that is true. A lot of the world revolves around food.
Hmm.
So it brings a lot of things together. And then there's also like the when you have catering, in the sense she's probably talking about, where you might have somebody walking around with a tray serving the food. There's also the aesthetic there. Also,
The
True.
it's very interesting.
it's one of those things where I'm always impressed by like how they have like 24 glasses of champagne balanced on a tray, and it's
Oh yeah, there's definitely an art to that. Nobody, I did not do that portion of it. No way. What
No,
about Maddie? How
no.
many? How many? You do no?
it's
I don't generally walk around with a tray serving
mm,
drinks and such. Um,
Okay.
that's what they have bars for. But when I'm clearing tables, I can fit like 10 glasses on my tray.
oh, have you seen those photos of the servers at Oktoberfest?
Yes, I
Oh
have.
yeah, I think
The
everybody
lady that's
has.
carrying like 18 beer steins.
Yeah, and those are not small work.
No, they are not.
Not at all.
It's to the point that I wonder, like, is
You gotta have
there,
some strong arms.
yeah, is there
Mm,
like a training camp they have to do to learn that skill, or do they just drop a lot of glasses?
it's probably just experience.
Mm.
Because when I
Yeah,
first
you probably
started
build it.
catering, like, wow, like 3.5 years ago, um, it was a learning curve trying to figure out how to keep everything balanced on the tray. Then I could only have like full glasses on the tray. Now I can have like 8.
Interesting. Is that I mean, they can only that skill, or is that what they'll let you put on the tray?
It's what you're comfortable with.
Ah, okay. That
I
explains
could
it.
probably fit more on, but at that point, it's a weight issue.
Hmm. The that's one of the things that I also quite appreciate when the caterers are there is that if I'm if I'm at a gathering and I'm in the middle of the crowd and I've finished my drink, having someone who will just take it from me and go bring it to the kitchen to be washed is much easier than bringing it up to the kitchen myself.
That is true. There are some perks at being guests at some of these events.
uh, Imagine if they made you have to wash your own dishes at an event like that. I once had a few friends over and I cooked, and because of the way that I was going, we were chatting while I was in the kitchen washing the dishes, and one of them insisted to help her wash the dishes with me. And I was like, oh, as a host, that's not quite right. But also, I'm washing all these dishes by hand. Having someone to help is actually kind of nice. So against my better judgment, I did in fact accept their help, and I managed to get dishes done in less than half the time it normally would have taken.
It is always more fun doing dishes at somebody else's house. Like, I will
Maybe
volunteer to
there's a
help
sense of
people
joy
do
in
their
that.
dishes,
Well, I think that's just because you're a
but
very
I
kind and wonderful person, Maddie. Not sure that's universal.
This is, man. I'll say that people who do dishes are saints. I always make sure that whoever is doing the dishes at our fish fries, I always thank them. They like,
doing
cause it's,
dishes
It's
doing dishes is hard. It's time
yeah,
consuming.
especially at a
and
big event.
at a big event,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
The worst thing to me is the is what it does to your skin if you wash dishes too much without like proper gloves.
Yeah,
When I was
your
in
Yep.
back.
when I was in my first year of college, I my dormitory didn't have a dishwasher, so I had to wash all my dishes by hand, and I didn't wear gloves. So my hands were all horribly cracked up, no matter how much I moisturized them, because that's just what using detergent on bare skin every day, several times a day, when you do your dishes would do to you. And then once I started using gloves, my skin went back to nice and smooth as it should have been, but definitely a learning experience.
Wear the gloves.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's,
They are.
Yeah.
They are very important, especially when you do a lot of dishes.
it's, there's never any shame in wearing personal protective equipment.
True.
One of the things that I always find quite astonishing when people are like, "Oh, don't wear a helmet. That's for cowards. It messes up your hair." It's better than having your hair a bit mucked up by a helmet than having your hair a bit mucked up by concrete, I say.
Yeah, that's true.
I like
But
the
also,
idea of your hair
I'm-
being mucked up by concrete.
Well, I just don't like wearing hats. Like, I will wear a helmet, but I don't like hats. The only time I wear them is if I'm outside in the sun for a prolonged period of time.
Yeah, I've only found hats. I used to not get why people liked hats, and I specifically never really got why like people who do stuff like truckers. I understood why they wore hats. Construction workers to some degree as well, but then when I worked at a sawmill, I the first day I didn't wear a hat, and then when I went to bed, I put my head on the pillow and I was like, "That's more sawdust on my pillow than there should be." And then ever since then, I wore a hat. What about you, PapaLlama? Do you have to wear a hat to keep yourself safe from the electronic debris?
No, I don't wear a hat at the job. I actually wear a hat. Like, I started wearing a hat when I bought this house a few years back. Because I started doing so much more yard work. A hat's really the only way to keep from having a ton of junk in your hair. And that is noticeably harder to wash out than your regular everyday muck.
Yep, it's I've
And I
actually. What hat do you prefer for that?
Well, I've got a couple different hats, but I have like two hats that are specifically work hats, but they're the trucker style. I think they're called Richardson 1112s, and they're very comfortable. And then I've got a couple other hats that nowadays are um, just for like regular casual wear. But I mean, I sweat a lot anyways, part of, I guess, genetics, and so I sweat through those hats fairly often, and they have to go through the wash.
Yeah, I've got this wonderful wide brim hat made out of hemp from this company called Tilly, and they are the most bomb-proof things ever. They stay on your head, they keep you dry, they keep you out of the sun, and they just work. That's all you really need.
You know, that is. I would expect you to have something like that. You said a tweed or a twill hat?
Uh, Hemp.
Hemp,
It,
hemp.
I think it's
Okay,
a hemp tweed if I'm recalling my words correctly.
interesting. I, this is the tale of this podcast. You have a hemp hat, and I wear trucker hats. This is a
And
great.
I
This is a
don't use
great
hats.
description. And Maddie wears no hats. Yes, we have. This is a perfect example of what's happened here. Oh, so on the hats game, I have a question for you, Maddie. So we're gonna have a Catholic discussion here. Um, we'll change topics. Do you veil at mass? My wife started doing that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool and interesting. She did this all on her own. And it felt like it came out of nowhere. Like it must have been 8 months ago, maybe a year ago. But I've started paying attention to it more and more often at church nowadays.
Don't.
Okay.
But I do have a lot of respect for those women who do. Um, but for me, veiling isn't just an outward sign. I do inward signs of I prepare my heart for that,
Interesting.
and I dress modestly for mass.
It reminds me of how St. Paul talked about outward versus inward circumcision.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the things where I think, like, veiling is wonderful, but it doesn't matter if you're externally veiling if you're not internally veiling.
Yeah, there's
Exactly. I
probably a lot
will
to go along
veil.
with that.
Mm-hmm.
I will veil if I go to a Latin mass out of respect for that church and the people there. But at my parish, I don't.
Oh,
Oh.
is it? I've never been to a Latin mass. Is it like standard at a Latin mass?
The ones that I've gone to, yeah.
I went to a
Okay.
Latin mass with a friend of mine who's an atheist, and she was very careful about making sure to be within the modesty requirements for the church. And I can't remember if she ended up veiling, but I said, I probably won't ask you, so it's up to you. And she's like, okay. So I'll just make sure to dress modestly and hope that's enough. And it wasn't enough. I did find out the Latin Mass isn't for me. But interestingly enough, actually, I received on the tongue during a Novus Ordo Mass for the first time this week. And to be quite honest, it was for it wasn't for like the most, what's the word? Glamorous reasons. I realized, like, right as I was about to receive, I looked down at my hand and I was like, oh, my hands are physically too filthy. And I just panicked and I put out my tongue to receive on the tongue, and the priest just put it there, and I received. And that was it.
There you go. I think I've done taking the Eucharist on the straight onto the tongue more often because I've got a kid in my arms than for any other reason.
Yeah.
It's like you're like a
And
parent. You're like, what do I do? I've got a child, maybe two.
yep. And just for any abbesses that may be listening, I did not lick the priest's finger.
What
Just
is
to put
that?
out
What?
there. Oh,
Why do you have to clarify this?
Oh, he's not up to date on this. Maddie, do you want to tell him?
No.
Who is licking priest fingers out here? What is going on?
Boy. Oh boy. Well, I think you'll find out when the episode comes out.
Oh no.
You'll hear about it.
Probably.
This sounds horrible.
I mean, it sounds horrible, is it? Actually, no, that's a really silly question. Sounds horrible. Kind of is, yeah. But depending on who you ask, it's just an innocent mistake. And I, being the kind man that I am, taunt them mercilessly for this, and also believe it is in fact an innocent mistake.
Nah, it can be a mistake and you can still tease them. That's allowed.
Yeah, of course. But then, once is a mistake, 3 times is a recurring trend.
Yeah, you should be making a habit out of licking priests' fingers. That's a little awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's when I would get suspicious.
Yeah. What more? Oh, yes. Speaking of veils, I've seen a lot of discussion in women's fashion about how you make veils. And that comes to the fabrication side of things. One of my parish, we had a deacon who then got sent off to the States. Got ordained as a priest and then immediately sent off to the States. And everyone was really sad because he was a very nice guy and then he went to Michigan. And we were like, oh man, our priest is in Michigan now. We wish he was here with us. So the deacon is in Michigan. I keep getting confused with what to call him because he is now a priest, formerly a deacon. But he got sent off, and then he
formerly deacons.
All priests are formerly deacons, but we knew him as a deacon.
So that's the holdup.
Yeah, but he came back to serve a mass recently, and he had this very clever thing for the PA system that we use, and it's basically a little lanyard thing that goes around and attaches onto the side, so he doesn't need to slip his hand into his pocket to be able to turn off and on the mic. It's just 2 layers out, so that it can be accessed from the outside. And it's white, so it blends in with the rest of his outfit. And I don't remember if he made it himself or if he had it made for him, but it was a very clever thing. I was wondering if you had any stories similar to that, Maddie, or PapaLlama.
Not that I know
So,
of.
as much as I used to quilt. But right now, the only crafting that I do is crochet.
What's your which crochet project are you most proud of?
That would be my life-size dog.
Life-size
Life-size
dog?
dog. We both.
Yep.
All right, we need to see a photograph of this thing. Do you have one?
Yes,
That's
I do.
amazing.
All right, this is gonna be
It was a commission from the local American Legion for a raffle, I
oh,
believe
that's
it was.
amazing. American Legion. All right, now I'm gonna have to pretend I know what that is.
It's a group of mostly veterans, and they do a bunch of stuff, bunch of fundraisers. This particular fundraiser was for sending vets to DC for like a vacation, I believe it was. They do it every year.
That thing's crocheted?
Yes, it
I would
is.
not have known unless you told me. Like, I would have
That
just
is
looked, I would have
definitely.
just glanced at that one thing, go, what's wrong with that dog's eyes, and then moved on.
That could easily function as a live labradoodle.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Wow, that's impressive.
Good job.
Thank you.
Well, we're gonna have to try to figure out if we can get that included in the podcast so everyone can see what we're marveling at.
I know, right? You just have to post a link to the photo, or like post the photo somewhere on the server or in the announcement so people can see it.
Or PapaLlama, because it's a video, we just put it in the video.
Oh, that's too
Like we
smart
did
for me, all right?
like we did with Hatsune Miku.
We don't talk about Hatsune Miku. Somebody brought that up the other day in one of the VCs. They were like, "You can't hate on the VTubers. You've done it." And I was like, "No, I can and I will."
And your Hatsune Miku was like 5 frames per second and then crashed halfway through.
I'm glad it crashed.
Big shout out to Pants for suggesting I include the Windows crash noise when it just went offline.
That was pretty funny. Yeah, I definitely was just using like my work laptop for this thing. That's what I always do. And I was like, and my poor little work laptop had 2 different like video things running. It was like, I can't handle this.
Yeah, I can imagine. When I saw that, I was like, oh right, I, who had been able to do this on my nice, well-built computer with like a good graphics card in it, and like it's 32 gigs of RAM and a RTX 3070. Of course, I was able to do this well. And then poor PapaLlama doing it on some back porch with a laptop.
That was the greatest thing too. I was a VTuber while out there touching grass. Literally, that was amazing.
Mm-hmm. It was income disparity, but VTubers. The landed VTuber bourgeoisie of Jerma. And the humble grass touching PapaLlama.
I know. That was a really fun episode. That was goofy.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, speaking of how fun episodes are, this has been wonderful, but we are out of time. So, Maddie, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for coming. This was a blast.
Mm-hmm. And to our listeners, I hope you all have a very wonderful Sacred Heart June, and I've been Jerma.
And I'm PapaLlama.
And I'm Maddie.